Leinster have just been dominating in club rugby for so long as well that people are like, okay, we have to like tear them down somehow. There's something going on here because they're just so much better than everyone else. They're trying to blame money. They're trying to blame that it's been handed to them in a silver platter. Where you mentioned that a year ago it was announced to be in Dublin. It's not Leinster's fault it's on in Dublin. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's on in France the year before,
Yeah.
and they got beaten by a French team in France in that final.
Where were all these complaints when Exeter were winning a couple of years in a row? I think 2019, 2020. Saracens were winning a couple of years in a row. Oh, we weren't complaining that, oh no, it's on over.
Leinster haven't won since 2019.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome to House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland. I'm Greg O'Shea and I'm here with the lovely Lindsay, and of course Jason's up from Limerick as well. How you doing, guys? Lindsay, how was your bank holiday weekend?
Great weekend.
Yeah?
Rugby, caught up with friends, played Lego with my son and Easter egg hunts and all the rest. So yeah, it was a great long weekend.
Nice, watched rugby, I hope.
Oh, watched every single bit of rugby. It was an absolute cracking weekend.
The Champions Cup was class, in fairness, it delivered. Didn't it, Jason?
Yeah, it's a good weekend. Yeah, I watched all the games, drank loads of points. So I mean, you can't really get much better than that. Like, Champions Cup, rugby,
weekend,
points, good food, great weekend.
Yeah. Great weekend. It's much easier just having the 4 games to watch rather than the entire URC, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We love the URC, but like there's just so many games every weekend. So this week in the podcast, we're going to be covering the Champions Cup, the 4 quarterfinals that happened. We're going to look forward to the Women's Six Nations game. We're going away to Italy, and we're going to chat about the red card challenge in Super Rugby. Jason, you have a bit of knowledge around that, which I just think is bizarre. But look, at least World Rugby are trying a few things, and we'll chat about that towards the end. But the first game we want to talk about, guys, was Leinster. Again, in the Aviva Stadium, which is a talking point as well that people are giving out about, that Leinster just seem to be in the Aviva every single week. But they won 55-24 against Leicester Tigers, 2 European, like, absolute record.
Powerhouses.
Yeah, powerhouses, trying to think of, like,
Giants.
giants, like massive teams. But Leinster seemed like it was men against boys, wasn't it?
Yeah, how good was Jimmy O'Brien?
Unbelievable.
How good was Jimmy? Garry Ringrose. They went down to 10 men. They went down to 14 men with Caelan Doris off, and they just actually kicked into life and scored 10 unanswered points. And I just thought they were different gravy. They'd obviously looked at Leicester, who I thought made some schoolboy errors, for the want of a cliche expression. Like they kind of drew in like the second defender, and they bit in and just created all these great laps. But the pace that Leinster come at to create those overlaps and create those gaps is unbelievable. And I just thought they looked like a group of men who were really enjoying their rugby and look really confident now on the home stretch. But now they'll come in against Toulouse, which we'll go into, where against they were magnifique. They really were. They were absolutely sublime as well. But listen, hats off to Leinster, and congratulations to Garry Ringrose after what we thought was going to be a long-term injury. Has come back, and he's as good as ever, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. It was such an impressive win. Like, I mean, this is a Leicester Tiger side that has the likes of Andre Pollard, Jasper Visa, Anthony Watson, Julio Montoya, like real high-level world-class players. A good side. They're the reigning English champions. You know, I know there's a bit of disruption there at the moment. They have lost Bortwick and a lot of their coaches with England, but like still a very, very tough side to play. It was never going to be easy, and they did it. Like they made it look easy. You know, I mean, 55-24 final scoreline, and it could have been more, to be honest with you.
Oh,
you know,
100%.
That was like nowhere near a perfect performance from Leinster. And yet they literally walked past the English champions like with ease, like into the semi-final.
Yeah, well, they started really well, as you mentioned, Lindsay. Garry Ringrose just came flying out of the blocks. He had 2 tries within 15 minutes. His first one was after a minute. Yeah. This lad, like, 2 weeks off, and he just comes straight back in like nothing had ever happened. So he's playing unbelievable rugby. You said off air there, Jason, that he's just playing on a different level. Absolutely. At 13 in the back line. He's just arguably the best. If there was a Lions tour this summer, like, he'd be the first choice, I think, in the centre. He's playing that well.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy obviously had a great game, but then it was still kind of close starting the second half before Caelan Doris got that yellow card, and it was like, oh, could Leicester fight back here? And then the yellow card seemed to spur them on. They played even better with 14 men. They actually won that period of 14 against 15, 10-0.
Yeah, and they got us. They got a scrum penalty, and I know Pat obviously had put it in about was it illegal. The only part I actually saw that I thought was illegal was Jack Conan stood up, and the rule is your back row have to stay bound on their shoulder to your lock. So I did think that I was surprised that didn't get penalised. But what I was very impressed with would actually Leinster with 7 men lost the hit, so that's very hard to come back with, because if you got a punch in the face, you're on the back foot already. And then what they did do, though, 7 against, they had to obviously drop a man. They waited on the Leicester put-in, which is really when your scrum is weak. So if you notice, just when the cusp as the ball comes in, they absolutely attacked the Leicester scrum. So they won it as regards the dominance. So they were called for claps in the scrum, but yeah, Conan was the only issue I found with that, and I would question the legality of it. However, you see Ross Maloney, straight away he goes to Ross Byrne, he said takes 3 points.
Yeah.
Because psychologically, not only did they win a penalty, but then to go down and lose 3 points. And I thought just little key moments with that where, they were just defining moments where they chipped away at Leinster. So psychologically, Leicester think, oh, we're down, we've an extra man. Actually, they'd gotten a maul turnover just before that, so that's what led to the scrum. So all these moments where Leicester probably thought, oh yeah, we're back in the game, and Leinster just goes, nah, slapped in the face, sorry, wake up, you're back in the game here. So I just thought just their game management and how they stuck with it and decisions like that. Ross Maloney's not even in a captaincy role, but he's just someone who's been so consistent throughout the season. Yeah. He showed his experience and he just went, no, didn't even wait for conversation to start. He's just like, takes 3 points. And I just thought they were excellent in that. And I have stats here for Jimmy O'Brien. He's just unbelievable on the night. And for a man who was in and out and then gone to camp and to come in and take his opportunity, he just, and to score his try, and he just got up and he celebrated. I just thought he was brilliant. So I wanted to give him a huge shout out, because it's not easy to be on the sideline waiting for that opportunity. But he just came in, and he'd be hard now not to pick.
Well, hit us with a few stats there.
Hold on now, I'll get this open. He had 5 tackles, 10 carries, 159 metres gained, and 1 try. And obviously then a couple of assists there for Garry Ringrose's try, if not more than that. So
not too bad.
No, not bad at all for that.
Yeah, Leinster seemed to be getting a lot of purchase off that hard line and out the back, and Leicester were just like so porous. Their defensive line could not deal with it, which I'm surprised with Leicester, with how big they are as a team, and who's behind them. Wigglesworth is their coach. That they wouldn't have figured that out, but that's what Leinster have been doing all season. And obviously it's easier said than done to defend it, but they were finding gaps like without even being touched. Garry Ringrose went through 2 or 3 times. Jimmy went through 2 or 3 times, and they were just kept doing the same thing and getting so much purchase. So you're looking forward now for Toulouse coming to Dublin in the 3 weeks. You think they're going to have that like down pat? Dupont will be all over that with his backline, and surely Leinster won't be getting as much purchase, or do you think that's just an unbeatable
it's as you said, it's easier said than done. Like, I mean, look, we've been watching Johnny Sexton doing that loop for the last 10 years and it still keeps coming off. It's just they do it with such intent and such purpose that it's executed almost perfect every time. And when it's executed perfect, like no matter how well drilled you are and how well you set up in defence, to fend it when you've got these like massive, like 16, 17 stone international players who are coming at you full pace at the speed they do it, because it's so fluid. That's the difference when you see what Leinster. Sometimes you don't even realise that they're doing a move because it's so fluid. Whereas, like, the way yourself, especially you kind of see it at lower level rugby or even teams that aren't performing well, you can read that move. You're sitting at home watching it going, we know exactly what's happening here. And you can read them in the fence every time. It's very hard to read Leinster, even if you know what they're doing, because it's just every time.
And the man who's on the ball keeps 2 eyes. If you watch Ringrose, if you watch even Harry Byrne on his inside ball, his eyes are always locked on the defender. Yeah. So the defender's like staring at him going, oh God, what's he going to do?
There's always an option B.
Always an option B. There's always at least minimum 2 options for Leinster. So through the front door in a gap, or if someone bites in, it's coming out the back. And every man knows his role. And I just think it's sublime. But if I was actually going to target Leinster, I'd target the breakdown and I'd target their set piece, because they're like, it was like training, wasn't it? Like a training day move. Like, so your scrum was so solid, their line out was so solid, and I'd be attacking actually the source. Not really. Yeah. It's very hard to defend any team coming at you in that pace. Yeah. So if anyone's gonna, and that's where I think the matchup with Toulouse and Leinster, I don't know how they're going to match up, because if you look at Ramos, Hugo Keenan, if you look at Dupont and Jameson Gibson,
it's Ireland France all over again, essentially, isn't it? Basically, like, wow. It's like Ireland France like 2.5. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Are we going to have more of a kicking game? Like, I thought Toulouse were exceptional when they turned over ball, but when they went kind of toe to toe in the physicality against the Sharks, they didn't really get much return on it. Whereas I think Leinster are well able to front up on the physicality. Like, they were able to match Visa. Obviously, Ken Doris, unfortunately, with the yellow card. But if you had got a little bit lower, that would have been a nice 2-man tackle. Do you know? So I think they're just a bit more equipped going forward. And
the key is just to shut down Dupont. Like, I mean, you notice that. Like, we kind of said that in that French game in Ireland, that Dupont had one of his quieter games. But if you kind of look back and watch that game, it wasn't that he had a quiet game. It was that Ireland shut him down and kept him quiet. And I know it's once again easier said than done, but that is something where you saw him there. He broke a record over the weekend. 5 assists. No one has ever done that in the history of the Champions Cup or the Challenge Cup. 5 assists in one game. So like he is starting to motor now because, as I said, he had a slow start to the Six Nations. He started motoring towards the end and ended up getting Six Nations Player of the Championship. He's coming in now. He's back to peak DuPont. And peak DuPont. And then Entomac then towards the end, you saw the try he scored. He's peaking now again as well. So shutting them down and keeping them, like, it's not going to be an easy game for them.
But do you think Toulouse are at a high enough level now to come to Dublin and beat Leinster?
I think they're good enough, 100% good enough. Now, will they do it? I would still be confident that Leinster will do it because of that Dublin factor. But they're more than capable of doing it.
Yeah, I think it'll be injuries for both sides and availability for depth of squad. But I think Leinster are just slightly over. And actually, if anyone gets a chance to look at DuPont's heat map on the Heineken Cup, it is ridiculous. It's nearly like there's only a very small corner of pitch that isn't covered.
Isn't there?
No.
And this new thing he's doing as well, where he's kicking off his bad leg more than he's kicking off his good leg, and his bad leg is better than like most international lines' good legs. He gets in the better. He's kicking like into the corners and off his left, and you're like, just stop now and give everyone else a chance for a while.
Yeah, he can do it all, and he seems to be ever on the pitch. When someone makes a break, he's always on the shoulder. Then he's just so nonchalant about it. He just moves it on. Sometimes he's doing like a basketball pass. Have you noticed that? I'm
Wasn't
like,
that
this guy
disgustingly
is
rude?
taking the piss.
Yeah, he was to Ramos. I was like, do you know what?
And he came through another stage and he could have scored. He goes, you can have it. And he just strolls in. Like, it's just so chill.
Yeah.
So I'd love to actually meet him and see if he is that chill in person, or like talk to some of his teammates. Because he is the captain, which means captains have to speak.
Yeah.
Is he fiery, or is he just always that chill?
Lead by example. I'd say he's the kind of guy that could lead by example. He doesn't have to say an awful lot. He just comes out like, as in, in France, like the 9 is le général. It's so important. Like, you just go out, you do your thing, you're the boss. It's like your general. Like,
that's
he doesn't have to say much.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Le Général is kind of a French thing anyway.
Le Général Petit,
Le Général Petit, I think, is his thing, but I don't think so. I mean, like, I think in every sport, right, like, you'll always have a world-class player, and then there's these guys that go even above world-class. Like in the soccer, like you'd have world-class players, and you've got Messi, and he's just in this other planet. Like, it's an extra border that doesn't exist. He's in that category, I think, in rugby.
And actually, it was the commentator who said that his running lines, support lines, so running off someone who has the ball, is actually like an Openside. Do you know, he's like a number 7, a world class number 7, and this is your 9. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's
so strong, like,
so strong.
He's ridiculous. He's a monster.
But he's just reading the game. He knows where the ball's going to be, and he's just turning up every single time. Like, to get 5 assists, and he took the record off our very own Darren Cave.
Yeah,
that's 4.
That's an interesting one.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like,
I was surprised and not surprised. Sorry, Darren.
But I still just can't see how they're going to pick apart Leinster in the Aviva Stadium, because I just can't see any faults in the Leinster squad across the whole team in any way. The only thing you were saying there, Lindsay, is maybe a couple of injuries. But they say like the only big injury is Sexton, and they don't even seem to need him because Ross Byrne is flying it. They have a lot of captaincy, like in James Ryan, he's doing very well. They have Ross Maloney supporting him as well, so they could probably get to that trophy and lift it without Johnny. What do you think?
100%. And I think, to be honest, we need that turning point without, offence to Johnny Sexton. I think just take the pressure off, and it just needs to be that turning point now for Ross Byrne. Now, the only mistake he had was he was trying to be a bit fancy with his offload, and he got a turn over to Harry Potter, who scored a try. But other than that, I thought he was exceptional, and he's building in confidence week in, week out. His kicking is good, his conversion rate, and now that leadership, because he's other leaders around him, that takes the pressure off him to just ease his way into that. So, and I think he's of any leader is when you've other leaders around you, like to take that pressure off. So, no, I think you're right. I can't see Leinster being beaten for the home factor. The only thing that would go against us if it's a wet day, but I don't think that suits Toulouse either.
Well, the one point of weakness, which probably isn't a point of weakness, is that number 7 jersey. They got Caelan Doris to wear it for the weekend, who was a sensational player, and he played really well as well. Got a yellow card for a high tackle. But do you think if Josh Van der Fleer isn't back, that's going to be a point of weakness for them, or it's just...
No, I'd put Doris back to 6. Actually, I think that was the first time Doris played 7 in his professional career.
He only played there for what? He only got like 20 minutes because Bard got injured, came off, and he went straight back to 6, and then Scott Penny came on. And then, sorry, can I just point out, Scott Penny's fend on Van Portfeed for that try.
Yes.
He absolutely flattened him. Like, Van Portfeed had a poor game, like a really poor game, and he had a poor Six Nations. I can't understand how he's in that Six Nations squad. He was so bad for them. And then at the end, he just got absolutely flattened. I mean, if I was him, like, I wouldn't go near social media for a week, and I just locked myself into a room after that match. Sorry, Jack.
No, fair enough. You're right. But Ryan Baird, Leinster said that he's out for a few weeks, so he'll probably miss that.
No, Sean O'Brien said this morning, I was scrolling to social media, and it looks like whether he's just covering it, he said it's not as bad as they expect, and they actually hope to have him back for the semi-final.
Okay, nice.
So we wish him a speedy recovery. It's not shoulder injuries, no matter how small or big they are, they're sore. So he obviously looked in a lot of pain, but we wish him.
So if he's fit, so would you put him 6, then put Doris in at 7 and Conan at 8, or would you just leave him on the bench or something, or put him back in the second row and then put Penny in at 7, because Penny has played well every time he's come in.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Well, Penny's like, what more can he do? He scored a try off the maul. Then he's bashing Leicester players like they're small children, and he's just like, what more do I have to do to get in here? But no, I think I'd probably leave him come off the bench as an impact. I think Scott Penny right now is a bigger impact.
I think Doris at 7, even if he'd played the 80, like Doris can put Doris in a full back if he wants to.
Play him anywhere. Like,
I don't think it would make much of a difference. So I know we didn't get to see much of him at 7, but I think he would have done a fine job and would the same thing like in the same final. If he has to go in at 7, Doris will be the same. Doris, he'll be a Munster at 7, so it doesn't make a difference.
I think ideally though I'd throw him 6, Van Fleer at 7, and then Luke Conan.
To Fair, I think it's the only one I think that might not be back. It looks like. If there's anyone that won't be back, it'll be Van der Fleer, it looks like.
So then we'll throw Doris there.
A couple more weeks.
Throw Doris in there. Just throw the best number 8 in the world in there. Just throw Doris in there.
I
wish Munster had that problem.
Well, you don't.
I wish Munster had that problem. Just throw Doris in there.
Hopefully, there's a couple more weeks left, so Van der Fleer might be back, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
There's unbelievable choices there, so it doesn't really matter.
What would you do, Greg? Because we feel like we're giving our opinion.
No, I agree with exactly what you said there, yeah.
It doesn't matter, they're all mutants. They're all so good, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Any back row combination from Leinster is better than the starting back row for nearly every team in the championship.
Well, this is the thing, and we can appreciate that as Munster supporters. We can appreciate how good they are, but some people are getting bitter with Leinster's performances and how successful they are. There's a lot of people coming out complaining. Different people, like for instance, Brian Moore was saying that Leinster's route to the Champions Cup final has been handed to them on a silver platter. Wigglesworth, who coaches Leicester, came out and said, I don't want to blame the money and the budget, but Leinster have a bigger budget than Leicester's. Basically,
I don't want to blame it, but I'm blaming it.
Yeah, it's like you can't just like caveat it and then say it anyway. So I don't know what you think of all this, Lindsay, as a Leinster lady. Do you think it is unfair, Leinster's budget? But before you answer, I just want to say, I think 99% of the Leinster squad is from Leinster.
From the academy,
the academy. And they're all Irish lads. Maybe James O, Gibson Park.
The majority, like more than any other team in the competition, they've got homegrown players, more like by a distance.
So I don't see where
I
find
it
it
offensive now, to be honest, considering I think it was last week or the week before, like Leo Cullen, alluded to the fact that it is the academy and test. Oh, it was Stuart Lancaster.
Lancaster,
he said it was testament to the academy at Leinster that they were producing these players, and I think it's really petulant and immature to take away from a province who has really worked hard on the school system. And if you look at everyone's route there, the likes of James Ryan and Ross Maloney actually played together in Michael's. Then they went to the academy together. Now they're at Leinster, and now they played at Ireland. So listen, sweetheart, our framework works. If you want to create your own, off you go. But I feel like that all was predetermined prior to Leinster. Leinster just got themselves where they need to be. So everything was predetermined as to the route for all teams if you finished high. And it's just what we were given. But I think if we were still away, we're still a team. It takes a little bit of the advantage away. But I think we've spoken week upon week upon week about the depth of Leinster and how they've created it. And they're still producing this production line. And I just think it's nothing to do with budgets. These are, like if you look at some of the lads who are playing in the URC, they're still on academy contracts. There's nothing there. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of our players then have come up and been rewarded successfully for IRFU contracts, which takes away from the province. So it swings and roundabouts. And I think it's just if you look at the Arsene Wenger model, what he did at Arsenal, who kept their budgets really low. Yeah. He just produced some really good players and invested at the academy level and brought it up. And I think for sporting organisations that are now businesses, that's the model you have to look at, because there's just ridiculous amounts of money being paid. We spoke about it before we come on.
Look at the Leicester. So to touch on Wigglesworth's point first, we look at Leicester. They've got Andre Pollard playing 10, who's the Springboks 10, as we know. He was the highest paid role player in the year last year at Montpellier at a million this season. I think they got him at a reduced rate because it didn't go quite well for him there. So I think they're paying around $750 for him.
Just $750,000.
Yeah, that's all. So the highest paid player in Ireland is Johnny. Johnny's on around 650. I can tell you for certain, Johnny was playing the weekend. Is Ross Byrne ain't on 700 grand a year. I can tell you that for sure. You know, so that's who he's up against. Like Montoya, who's the Argentinian hooker, one of the best hookers in the world. He's on big money. Jasper Visa, South African, he's on big money. They just signed Anthony Watson, one of the best wingers in the world. He's on big money. They're bringing all these guys in. They're spending big money on these guys. So that is absolute nonsense from Wigan's work. Like, and I expect better from, to be honest with you. The second point to look at Brian Moore, this whole thing, like, and I hate, like, come here, look, I'm as Munster as they get, like, it pains me to see Leinster doing so well. It pains me to compliment them, but of course I'm going to compliment them because I recognise their success and recognise how good a side they are. To get a home last 16, to get a home quarter final, you have to perform in the pool stages.
Which they did.
Which they topped. They were the number 1 seeded team. It wasn't handed to them. They had to win all their games. Win their 4 games. Now, I know the current system is shite at the moment, 2-12s. Yeah. They still had to win all their games. 2 home, 2 away. They scored, what were they scoring? Like something, they averaged 8 tries a game or something in the pool stage. So you're telling me that's handed to them. So they worked their way. Like, we happened to us at Munster so many times in the pool stages. We're like, we really need to do our best so we get a home, because like, we know no matter who comes to Thomond Park, we'll beat them. Because it's very, like, how many games have we lost? How many quarterfinals or last 16s have we lost in Thomond Park? Like, you can count them on one hand. Probably 2.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Like, they earned us. And the fact the final is on in Dublin, that was announced a year ago.
Yeah.
So
people are just getting, I think people are just so bitter without, it's like Ireland are obviously dominate number 1 in the world, one of 6 nations, favourites for the World Cup along with a couple of other teams. But I think Leinster have just been dominating in club rugby for so long as well that people are like, okay, we have to like tear them down somehow. There's something going on here because they're just so much better than everyone else. They're trying to blame money. They're trying to blame that it's been handed to them in a silver platter. Where you mentioned it a year ago, it was announced to be in Dublin. It's not Leinster's fault it's on in Dublin. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's on in France the year before, you know, and they got beaten by a French team in France in that final.
Where were all these complaints when Exeter were winning a couple of years in a row? I think 2019, 2020. Saracens were winning a couple of years in a row. Oh, we weren't complaining that, oh no, it's on over.
Leinster haven't won since 2019, lads. People forget that as well. Like, they haven't won the last 4 of them.
Exactly, yeah.
So what are they moaning about? Like, just get over yourself.
I know.
They're a phenomenal side at the moment. Appreciate it. And you got beaten. End off.
And this money thing, I just don't understand where the complaints are coming from. Because I went through academy system in Ireland as well. And I've played with Jimmy, Garry, the Byrne brothers, Ross Maloney, James Ryan. I've been with them since 15, 16, 17. I've seen them coming up, and there's no way, as you said, Jason, they're on $750,000. Like, you know, they're doing all right for themselves, but there's no way the budget is going into their back pockets. Like,
I think the issue, sorry, go on.
I'm saying, but like, I think what's happened is that they put the money into developing grassroots around Leinster and the schools, and they've good coaches going out to the schools, which then feeds into the sub-academy, feeds into the academy. And this isn't like an overnight fix. This started years ago, and they're just seeing the fruits of their labour now, and Leinster are just performing at the top of the game. And 100%. I just think these lads are all just bitter. They all need to shut up because they're just digging a hole.
This is coming from both English. This is the English system at the moment. Like, they're envious, right? Because what they know is they can clearly see that our central contract system, where we're directly linked with the union, works incredibly well. It is the model to follow, and I think every union is realising that. But the RFU and the English Premiership don't do that. Privately owned clubs, they're separate. A player gets, they get like 22,000 per game. They're not actually attracted. The players, the teams have to pay the players individually, but they're after getting their budget slashed now to 5.5 million, because what happened a couple of years ago, they were left to do whatever they want. They were bringing in these semi-red Rajas for $1 million a season, and all these guys coming in. Worcester gone under. Just talks of 2 or 3 other clubs going under because they just went on and we were all whinging and moaning because we saw Exeter and Saracens bringing in all these top New Zealand, South African players and paying like Owen Farrell 800-900 grand a year so he wouldn't go off to France. French teams spending massive money, like, and we didn't open our mouth. No. Do you know? And now, like, the reason this budget was put on them, because you can't manage the money yourselves and you're going to go under otherwise. Yeah. So this is why. So they're giving it's their own system that's holding them back, because they need to be controlled, but they're hacking out at us because they're getting beaten by the Irish teams now, which is pathetic.
It is pathetic, like, and they're all struggling now. So Exeter losing half their team at the end of the season.
Yeah, the Jack Knowles, we were saying that Jack Knowles has gone to La Rochelle, one of the Simmons has gone to Montpellier, another one gone to Brive. So yeah, they're going to be a team disbanded, and I think that was kind of the talk against Stormers, that they want to really go, I suppose, for want of a better description, balls out to really give this competition a go before the team is no longer as it exists. But yeah, they're orchestrators, the English clubs, of their own downfall at the moment. And the other thing is, like, we obviously had Jimmy on the show. Jimmy would have played GA. We've kind of, as well, I think Leinster have we're a lot more talent ID now than just these really orthodox, rugby bases and rugby communities. Now we're looking at the overall athlete. I think rugby itself is a much more attractive sport here. It's probably one of the number ones now in the country, which is saying a lot. So it swings and roundabouts, and we've just, I think overall, even with Connacht and Munster are coming up, we're just doing well with how we're developing our players, and then only bringing in who we need to experience-wise, which we've again said that also helps, that there's more experienced players to help younger players along, but it's younger Irish players being developed rather than bringing in these big names to kind of, which stunts the growth of
the only big
underneath
names really that have come over to Irish shores would be like the Doug Howletts went in, but he went at the end of his career. Rocky Elsom came in. I think you go further than that, Jim Williams was there. There's these marquee players that come
every
in
now and then,
but there's just to go in around like a whole team of young Irish lads to bring them up.
Well, we were saying this for Ayr. So Nasiwa, say if you look at the back line,
Nasiwa's another one,
Doug Howlett down with the likes of Keith there.
Farley did it at Leinster as well.
Yeah.
So there's only been a couple of them where these English clubs just bring in a whole flock of fellas, pay them all the money they can, and now they're after blowing budget and they're going to lose half their squad. So
that's why their national team is doing so poorly as well. So it's having a knock-on effect across the board.
And another point I'd like to make before, and people need to realise that me and Jason are Munster supporters, and we're supporting Leinster here. So this is just more rugby opinion.
This is tough for us. This is genuine, as in we're actually being realists. We don't want to support.
And blue is your colour.
Do you know what I mean? So
but the other point I want to make is that Ireland's population is just over 5 million, and I think what England it's tens of millions. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know there's like 9 million in London alone. So like London has more people to choose from than Ireland's whole country. Do you know what I mean? So like their playing population is so much bigger than ours.
It's our number 4 sport here as well, let's remember that.
And it's not even our national sport.
It's number 4. It's literally number 4. It's like, hurling is first, then you've got soccer, then probably football and rugby.
Yeah.
Oh, let's bring up Limerick one, the league lads. Now there you go. There's a bit up there.
Look, you can win it. You can. I know where rugby. It's a rugby show. Like you can win all your Heineken Cups. But we'll just keep winning all Ireland. It's like for fun.
And I don't actually see us being beaten in this year's championship.
We'll just win another Ireland for fun, so it's fine.
The Limerick lads are freaks.
The Limerick lads are playing.
Maybe actually they could go to Munster and see.
That Limerick hurling team might as well be a professional team the way they play.
They're incredible. Everyone stop complaining about Leinster. They're just getting the fruits of their labour now, and they deserve it, and hopefully they can go the whole way. I feel the Leinster-Toulouse game is the final. Whoever wins that's going to win overall. Even though La Rochelle are good.
Ron Garry would say a few things about that.
La Rochelle are good, and we will speak about them a little bit, but we just want to touch on this Toulouse game. Toulouse beat the Sharks 54-20 in Toulouse. It was a beautiful day in France. Antoine Dupont with 5 try assists, as we mentioned. But Thomas Ramos had a great game. Ntamack had a great game. I presume you watched it, guys. Wasn't it? Sharks, I think, just struggled with the travel, maybe, and the time off, where the lads came off the back of the Six Nations.
If you look at the scoreline, it didn't really reflect it. So I finished 54-20. They were well in it. Well, not well in it, but they were in the game up until about maybe 60, 65. It was kind of more the last 15, 20 minutes where Toulouse just ran riot. I think, as I said, it could have been the travel. It could have been a fact that they're not used to this competition. They don't realise it's an 80-minute it's an 80-minute game. Like, you really have to play the full 80 minutes in this competition to get anywhere and to win. Do you know what I mean? So I think, as I said, it's their first Champions Cup. They had to travel. They're playing against the 5-time champions. You have to remember that as well. You weren't playing against just a run-of-the-mill team. You're playing against Antoine Dupont and Roman Ntamack and Thomas Ramos, and you're playing
against the spine of the French team. Really.
Yeah, big time.
And it's away, and they did
in France, as well.
Yeah, exactly. And they weren't missing their players. They had their Calices, they had Lacagno, they had Mampimpi, they had all their top lads playing. Just Toulouse just showed their power in Europe, didn't they? And kind of taught Sharks a lesson, being like, if you want to go far in this competition, this is what happens.
Oh, they played like their jouet. They were offloading their support lines when they got turnover. Like Mampimpi, he did some good things, and then he just had 2 poor turnovers where Toulouse absolutely leathered them. They just moved the ball over to the wing, and it went out to Matalia, who was knocked out and back on, scored 2 tries. Malia, and then Ntamack, Dupont, and then to Ramos, who scored 29 points, 5 conversions, 3 penalties, 2 tries. It was just just nice day.
Wasn't he top scorer in the Six Nations as well? Wasn't he point scorer? So he just scores points for fun.
Yeah, but it helps when you're the kicker, in fairness. It helps when you're the kicker.
But he scores tries as well and everything. But I think that Sharks game as well, looking at the Sharks, so we saw it against Munster. I mean, on paper, that Sharks side should be incredible. But when you watch them play, I don't know if it's the way they're coached, it's their game plan. They're not that good a side. Like, I mean, that's why I was so annoyed at the Munster game. Because on paper, you were like, we're going to get annihilated. It's on at South Africa. They weren't that good against Munster, and Munster still lost, which shows you how bad Munster were.
Yeah.
But like that Sharks side, like you're playing against an elite Toulouse side, because I saw a lot of complaints over the weekend from South African supporters. Like, I know we have a lot of South African fans following the show, but you know, that Toulouse side was playing at their very best. That Shark side can play a lot better. Do you know what I mean? Just because they're littered with Springboks, they don't seem to play anything like the way they play for South Africa than they play for the Sharks. Because they were the same in the URC last year. The Stormers are much better than them, whereas on paper the Sharks should be animals. They should be mad. They should be killing everyone on paper. Like,
sure, they've South African front row. Then I thought Khaleesi played well. He was always lively. Do you know, he's always involved. Lucanio Am was kind of quiet.
Couple of moments. He had that pass for that try. It was absolutely like, this is why he's Lucanio Am.
And Chamberlain, have I got that right? The fullback has only kind of been starting, and he played well when he got on the ball. But again, like Ramos is kicking as well into the corners. Like some of the kicks were just really put the Sharks back, and they just poor turnovers at poor times. And I know they'll say about the travel, but you're always going to have a weak turnaround. Everyone had the same. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, they were just out of sorts, and to still be in with a chance at 65 minutes, and then they just switched off. Like
they're going to have to adapt to this competition. Like, I mean, Greg, you know more than anything, like the difference that we always say with Munster, the way Munster play in the URC and then the way they step up over the years tonight in Cup, it's completely, and the way you have to switch on. It's like going from say Champions Cup to Test level. Going from URC to Champions Cup is the same gap. Yeah. And like we had even Darren and stuff on the show a few times and asking him like, what's the difference? And it is that much of a jump.
Yeah, it is.
So it'll take them time to get used to that, like that elite level. European Champions Cup.
Of course. Well, the Sharks, in fairness, they have a new coach in Neil Powell just this season as well. So he's obviously trying to, same as like Roundtree coming into Munster, he's just trying to build his ethos and stuff. But he's to get to a quarter final against Toulouse, and they didn't perform too badly, but I think the South Africans are here to stay in the European Cup, and they'll start performing for the next few years. And what do we think about the Juan Cruz Malia incident when he where he got knocked out? Clearly got knocked out by Pimpy's head. It was unintentional, but like arm was up in the air, he's flat on the ground, which is a clear concussion. Goes off and then he comes back on. Now he played really well when he came back on. Scored an unreal try. But what do we think of that he's been allowed back on the pitch?
Yeah, we've seen that before. We've seen it happen, like with a few incidents, like, you know, happened with Nick White and stuff. Like in these, we keep being told that if an incident like that happens, that there's an independent doctor there that can overrule everything and just gets him off the pitch. He doesn't come back on. So obviously in that situation, an independent doctor, if there was an independent doctor there and they saw that footage, he wouldn't have been allowed back on. So obviously their own doctor, who's always going to let their player back on because they're playing. Do you know what I mean? That's why that decision has to be taken away from Toulouse. It has to be taken away. There has to be someone independent there. So there mustn't have been. Yeah. So
I thought if they got knocked out, it was automatic HIA
and
removed.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
That's what I thought.
How did you get back on here now? Yeah. Because to me, if you're knocked off, that's the new rule that you just come off altogether and you're just, it's HIA,
that's
you're
what
not back on.
The ruling was as well, yeah.
So I was very surprised at that because, Pimpy, the way he turned and he absolutely covered him because he caught him just on the chin. Like it was like a full out punch. So, and then he nearly got taken out for his second try. The Shark centre came out of nowhere with a shoulder charge, which it all kicked off then, understandably. So he played well. He didn't seem to have any ill effects, but you know, we know it takes 24 to 48 hours.
So say it takes time, like, and it's just the repeated blows. And what they say as well is like the guys are much more in trouble and it's much more dangerous if you take a big bang and then you get up and you get that repeated, that second or third blow. So you might seem fine. And like we only had an incident there, or another announcement there last week was Daffy James. Played for Wales in the British Irish Lions. He's 43, Pat, or something, is it? Early onset dementia. There's another guy who's gone in with that case, like against World. He's going to go up against World Rugby and the WRU and someone else. But there's 130 ex-pros now or something like that are suing World Rugby and the unions and stuff like over incidents in the past. Like, so obviously we can't rectify that, but we can learn from it.
And hence why he should have been taken
not
off.
Come back onto the pitch whatsoever.
It's just he was clearly knocked out, and I do feel, Lindsay, that you're saying there that the ruling is if there's a clear knock to the head or a like suspected concussion.
When
or,
they go unconscious.
That's it.
As far as
That's
I know.
it. You're gone. You're gone from the pitch. And I don't see why they can't just bring off a guy that's sitting on the bench that's fresh as daisies and protect Malia's brain. Do you know what I mean? It's such a bigger issue. I know he probably went in, completed the HIA and came back on and he did play really well, but that doesn't matter. There's obviously damage to his brain. He was knocked out on the pitch.
Absolutely.
So I just don't understand why they're pushing these players' bodies. Because he's obviously going, from playing, he's obviously going to want to come back on.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like the look of that either, like the fact that he was clearly knocked out and he went back on the pitch. So hopefully there's a bit more investigation goes into that afterwards. But moving on to the next game, Exeter Chiefs played really, really well at home. They won 42-17 against the Stormers, but the Stormers didn't really show up, did they?
God, they were poor. I was disappointed with them. Do you know, they'd Lebock, they'd Kits off, they'd just Willemse actually had a poor game. He had a poor first half. They absolutely tormented him with kicks into the corner, and he got one which is not. He doesn't like when he's turned. Do you know? So they turned him so many times. Anytime they could, Exeter. So they'd done their homework on him, and he just he had some poor choices. He got a try himself. Sinatla was quiet. I just thought they were really, really out of sorts now. I thought at least the Sharks showed up and gave Toulouse a bit of a game, and it was a really good contest, really good spectacle up to the 65th minute. But Stormers just.
I feel like it must be something to do with the travel. Do you know what I mean? Coming all the way up from South Africa, and I know the time difference isn't too bad, but Sharks kind of underperformed a little bit. Stormers definitely underperformed, and they just seemed to lack energy. They seemed like the occasion just kind of got the most from. Whereas that was down in South Africa, or all season they've been playing in South Africa. They play incredible every single week in, week out, and teams go down there and they can't perform against them. So do you think, Jason, that the travel is just a bit too much for them at that level of the European Cup?
Yeah, maybe, but I think there's a number of factors there. I think you have to look at the fact that, okay, it's your first time entering Europe. As we said, it's a different level of competition. You're going to have to adapt to it. It's elite level. Your first time playing against the English teams, your first time playing against the French teams. So it's going to be different. You have to learn to adapt to that. The travel, of course, is going to be something they're going to have to adapt to, but they knew what they were getting into when they signed up for this competition, when they signed up for the URC. Yep. And they have come over and won big games and travelled over with in shorter time frames in the URC. So that's going to come in time. They're going to adapt to that. We've seen it's tough for the first season of the URC. You couldn't win a game down in South Africa to save your life. So the other teams found it the same way. But this year now it's not as much. This year there's actually getting more. There's more wins coming out of South Africa. And we're hoping Munster might get a couple in the next few weeks as well to keep us there. So that's going to take time as well. But so, do you know what I mean? There's no point in making an excuse about it. Do you know? 28-0 down after how many minutes? First, if anything, you should be awake for the first half an hour. Maybe the travel might kick in the second half. But to start so poorly.
Yes, and even it said it Exeter had the line out to the back, and then it went in through Woodburn through a gap, I think it was, and it was just they were picking them apart. They'd really done their homework. Jack Knowles even picked at the base of the scrum and went over. I was like, right, if the wing is doing that to you, you're really, really out of sorts. So they just seemed like second best, didn't they? Just really lethargic, and in the pre-match it was I think as far as I know, they just got on a plane and just had a recovery week. So it wasn't you've trained at this part of the season, there is nothing you can do within a week anyway to just all of a sudden get yourself ready. You just need to recover. And these are full-time professionals that have had a whole season, realistically behind them. So to me, it's just get your rest, get your thing, maybe a sharp captain's run, few walkthroughs and fine-tune set piece or whatever you need to do. You've done your homework and picked apart Exeter. It didn't even look like they did their homework on Exeter. It's just we'll just show up and play. Yeah. So I think the South African teams will learn a lot that you're right, it is test match rugby and you just have to be up, increase your game at different levels. So each opposition you're going to have to pick apart and have a different game plan. Yeah. It's not like the URC that you can rely on your basic, individual powers. So I think they will learn a lot, and I think, for me, I think travel's out the window because you have a whole season. It's just
any away game is difficult. So look, 100%. All 4 home teams won.
Well, that's
even Leicester only had to fly an hour over to Dublin, and it's a struggle for them.
I was going to say the home advantage is just a massive 100%. Mentally, especially in the European level. But it just also seemed the home teams had done their homework.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that moves on to the next game, La Rochelle versus Saracens. Like the amount of turnovers La Rochelle got against Saracens was hilarious. Like it was like men against boys.
Bodia got.
And then Bodia got most.
He got about 90% of them.
Yeah.
Bodia, I think, at least had 4 himself, like, which is, and Will Skelton had a couple.
Yeah.
And it's just like La Rochelle and Raj obviously identified that that's a place they can get them. Where, what do you think of that? Do you think Saracens just hadn't done their homework, or they struggled with the travel again down to France? It was a hot day down in La Rochelle.
I think it was a hot day, but I mean, if you go through Sarries' experience and their previous history in the competition, like you still have the Owen Farrells, the Atoges, the Vunapolas, you know, and that's just to name but a few. So I just think, I think Raj is a different gravy. I think him as a 10 has implemented that into his coaching game plan where he will pick apart every opposition. He did it to Leinster last year. They made like Leinster look mediocre, and that was, we spoke about in the show, my one worry was what Raj would do psychologically to Leinster. And he does that to every competition. And even in his post-match, he said, no, this wasn't a quarter-final. Every knockout stage, every match in the European competition is a final. And I think they just took it a little bit more serious. Like even, I was saying to you before we started, like even in contact, La Rochelle they just kept their leg drives. They just wanted it more. And they just celebrated all the little wins. And I just think Sarries relied on getting back into competition. You know, they're back where they were after being punished with all their...
Rightfully so.
Yeah, indiscretion. So I just think, I just think it also probably epitomised, unfortunately, where the English teams and where they're at as well. I just think...
A lot of credit to Ron O'Gara there as well. Like, I think if you watch, like there was a 10-minute period in that second half, I swear to God, La Rochelle must have made 5 reads in the space of 10 minutes, and every single one of those reads was a Saracens player getting smashed in open play. Like they were just, they were reading them like a book.
Yep.
And like that comes down to how drilled they are, like, and then the fact that, like, I mean, we went on about Botia, like, but like, there's a reason why they call him the Demolition Man. That's his nickname, right? This guy plays 7 centre or wing, and he was just an absolute freak of nature in that game. Yeah. And even Kerr Barlow as well was absolutely class.
Yeah, he was.
You were saying there as well that apparently he's eligible for Australia now because he stood down for 3 years from the All Blacks. If I was Eddie Jones, I'd be calling him after that game weekend anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? But it does. It goes back to O'Gara, and it goes back to it wasn't just that the players outperformed. They were beaten tactically as well.
Yes, they were.
They were massively beaten tactically.
Yeah, 100%. And Roger's done it a couple of times now. He's done it to Leinster, as you said. But to pick apart Saracens like that, we're not talking about a low-level team here. Saracens are huge, and they just hadn't turned up, and they had all their boys playing, all their top lads playing. So,
this is why I'm surprised that you said that to whoever wins the...
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think if La Rochelle get through the semi-final and it's a Leinster-La Rochelle final again, do you think that La Rochelle will just have that mental edge over Leinster? Because I know the Leinster lads have in the back of their heads that they lost to La Rochelle.
No, I think it will bring something different, because I think that's a good point with Sarries. I think they did just show up, and every team has their idiosyncrasies. But when you go into European competition knockout, you have to think ahead of the game. And if I was Stuart Lancaster and Leo Cullen, I'd be thinking, right, obviously Toulouse now, don't overlook them, but they will have to look at Toulouse and say, right, where's their weakness? What are our weaknesses that they're going to identify? And now we have to give something different. And that's where the difference is from great to elite teams. And that's the difference, is the psychological and the tactical difference. So I see them doing it with Toulouse because they're going to have to. They're going to have to negate the Entamacs, the Duponts, the Ramoses, the Flamonds, like all of those. But I think if we're looking ahead, hopefully not prematurely, but to the likes of La Rochelle, it will go down to mind games with the coaches, I think, and then the players implementing the game plans.
It just shows at the top level that the coaching staff really does matter.
Exactly.
Doesn't it?
That's why Leinster will miss, I think they don't realise yet, they're going to miss Lancaster big time next year.
Hugely.
They're going to miss him a lot, like, because even like we were on about earlier on, like in terms of how physical and how fit Leinster are, like the reason why and how well drilled their moves are, so perfect they are, his training sessions, like that's why they have this thing called Tuesdays. They're supposed to be ridiculous. Like they train, what they do is, was I reading something recently? But they actually train at a higher level than they play in matches. So if they play a match at 100%, they purposely train at 115, 120%, so that when they get to a match, it's easy. So that it feels like a match feels like training, and training feels like a match.
Did you do that at Sevens?
Yeah, we did a bit of it.
We did it a bit as well.
Where the ball just keeps coming. It's like 3 teams and you just don't get a break. Like, it's always moving, which is incredible. And
it does, because it makes a match easier, because that's not going to happen in a match. So if you're prepared and ready to do that, then all of a sudden you're playing a match in slow motion and you can read the game much easier. So that's how your brain switches on. Physically and mentally, you get to that level, you switch on.
Yeah. Can I make a point? We did that, right, just building up to the World Cup that we didn't make. But we were training at 120%, right? So it was when we got to games. But you know what was funny? If you're still not looking after the basics. So, if you've no contact.
Right.
So we were playing all the 3 teams in the Fiji Church, which was lovely. And I loved broken play, and it was great, and you felt great. But sometimes then when we went into the likes of Spain and Italy, who targeted our breakdown, we weren't looking after it because we're waiting, thinking, this ball is going to come real quick. And then we're like, right, so it doesn't really matter if you're training 120% unless you're looking after
the basics first.
Exactly.
I think that's why they have they have their Cullen there, who's the real measured figure, I'm saying, who kind of stands over, make sure that forward he's an excellent coach. They've got McBride in there, the same as well, really kind of old school, kind of like measured guy who I'd say he looks after the basics. Lancaster does the kind of flashy stuff and gets them through the fitness, and there's a lovely balance there of everything that's going on. So I think that's key for them at the moment.
Say they're like a pie chart.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who are they going to get to replace Lancaster. Are they going to look for a big name? Is there another Irish coach that's there? Are they going to?
Yeah, they had Kieran Reid over there a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Kieran Reid was in and around training and having a look. I don't know why. Could have been him because he's probably looking to get into coaching, I think.
Interesting one.
So maybe he's on the short list going to Leinster and substitute for Lancaster, but that's not going to happen for a few weeks, guys, because we still have the European Cup and URC ahead of us, and also the Women's Six Nations ahead of us. Yes. So we're playing Italy this weekend away in Parma, you were saying?
Yes.
How do we think that's shaping up?
5. Do you know what? It's hard to know. So Italy obviously had really good performance against France in the opening nation, but you never want to play France and England back to back within a week. So they obviously got absolutely whopped. England put 60 plus points on them. However, I think it was Italy's first try since about 2 years. They've never scored a try against England in the last 2 years anyway, if not 2 years plus. So they're really experienced. They're really going to come. They're at home. We're never really good when we go to Italy. They have the likes of Giada Franco is back, so she plays Openside. She's world class. Beatrice Rigoni she plays 12, so she's just really experienced. They've Duca in the second row. They've a couple of experience. So they've a couple of really big names that have been there for a long time. They're a bit like their own men's national team. When they get in open play, they can play some really big, expansive rugby. So I think what I'd like to see from Ireland is the physicality they brought, even though, look, they did a lot of missed tackles against France, which you can understand because France, when they got into open play, was just so hard, just kept moving the ball really well. Yeah. But if they can kind of slow the ball down, keep possession, I think set piece is going to be key, as we always say, but I think also just bringing that physicality and kind of smothering the big players of Italy and really taking the game to them. I think it could be I think it's going to be our most competitive game other than Scotland, because I think we really need a result this weekend and a performance going into England next week. So yeah, I think right now Italy will be favourites going in. They were tipped to go third prior to the competition starting. Yeah, really? Between them and Wales. Yeah, they've retained a lot of players from the World Cup, and they actually had a really good World Cup over there. They've also gone professional a lot sooner than we do, and they've a couple of players playing the Premiership. So if they've everyone available, Italy are probably just slight favourites going in because they're at home. But look, the girls have had a week off. They had a tough 2 weeks to open up the competition. We hope they can just bring the positives a little bit more consistently for this round.
When you're chatting to any of the girls, how are they feeling in camp?
They're feeling good. I think they took the week off. They were back in yesterday. I think they fly tomorrow afternoon to Italy. Obviously, Parma brings back some PTSD for some of us, because obviously that was the location where we failed to make the World Cup. But look, it'd be a nice way to eradicate some demons on a lot of levels for this team. And I think a young team after a break and hopefully just some time away just to recharge the batteries and get some confidence. So I would hope, I just hope this is going to be hopefully our best performance so far. I
know, because we could really do with a win for the girls against Italy, because they've England coming the following week, right? To Musgrave Park. Yeah. Which obviously England are top class. So hopefully now just focus on this week, get a win away against Italy, and we move forward from there.
Yeah, we just said it's incremental changes. So we want to see all the positives from, not too many from the Wales, but definitely from France we saw a lot more positives. Yeah. So if we can bring that in now for a full 80 minutes. Look, we want a competitive, and as I said, it's just going to be incremental changes and positives for this competition going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
So best of luck.
Best of luck to the girls this weekend. Now we want to talk about the red card scenario in World Rugby at the moment. There was a big incident down in Super Rugby where Angus Blythe had a headshot on Brumbies winger Corey Toole. If you haven't seen it, guys, it is ridiculous. I presume Angus didn't mean it, but it just caught him, and Corey Toole was stumbling around, didn't know where he was, and then he only got a yellow card. But the new rule down in Super Rugby is that, you can correct me on this, Jason, is that the ref can give a yellow card, but it's under review, and then the TMO then has a look at the incident, and it can be increased to a red card. Is that right?
They have 20 minutes to review it. So there's ways you can look at that. So if you look at the incident, you'll see it. We have it up on Rugby Joe, and it's on our Instagram and our TikTok. The clip got like 3 million views in a day, like, because it was so insane. So I mean, he comes in at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's late. He's upright, and it's head on head. Like, it's almost like a diving headbutt, and like the impact on Corey Toole. You see him. He gets up, like, he actually has stanky leg when he gets up. His leg is wobbling. It's like that. He's so out of it because that's how hard he hit him. Like. And he gets up, like, and tries to play on, like, and everyone's like, sit down. But like, he's after getting the sighting has been done already for it, and he got a 6-game ban reduced down to 3.
Why the reduction?
Like, I don't know. Like, to be honest with you, as I said, like, it's the same as the whole disciplinary.
These things in World
process,
Rugby, you go into sightings. I'm sure you've been in a few, Lindsay, in your time.
You know what? Fun fact on this Tuesday morning, I actually haven't.
Have you not? I've even been in one myself. But if you basically, I think there's certain things, like if you apologise, you get time off. If you agree to go to like a tackle school course, you get time off.
It's nonsense as well.
It's actually nonsense. Like,
if you buy me an ice cream
after
it.
So you can get literally like full bans halved, like just by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it," kind of thing, and and apologising and doing a tackle course, yada yada yada. So that's why these things get reduced so quickly. So he's only going to miss like what, 3 games?
3
now?
games. It's not like even referee Ben O'Keefe messaged us and Rugby Joe and asked us to just to clarify the rules of over there, where it's, as I said, it's he gave a yellow card, but like, first of all, I'm sorry, like, I mean, I don't know how he even. I think what you're doing there is you're not making the referee make the tough calls. That is as clear as day as a red card as you will ever see in rugby. But he gives the yellow. But what that does then is that allows who was it again? It was the Brumbies and the Reds, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Reds. So that allowed the Reds to have a player on for that extra. Well, it took
20
like
minutes?
15, 20 minutes for them to decide whether it was upgraded or not. Like, so they get. I know he's sin binned, but it takes an extra 10 minutes. So that means it should have been 10 minutes quicker for a guy. So you can get him on for an extra 10 minutes. That makes sense. So I don't understand the whole process. I think. I wouldn't like to see it brought in over here. Put it that way.
No, because especially when the player that, you know, is like Corey's, like, he's stumbling, like, and you can hear the referee Ben O'Keefe saying, "Go down on one knee, go down on one knee, go down on one knee." To me, that is clear that this is like it is like Blythe looks like a ram. Like, as he's coming down after catching the ball, he looks like he just increases speed and he just like butts him in the chin. Like, so the fact of what the referee can clearly see is a player like basically nearly knocked out, just on the cusp of being unconscious, like really shook. How it's not a red card now with that contact is beyond me. Like, there's no clearer signs. Like, and then them having full complement of players for that 20 minutes for review. It's kind of a ghetto, isn't it?
Well, no,
really?
your man's gone off, like, but I think what you're doing is, like, the main thing there is you're giving out the wrong message, because what you're saying is we're having a look at this and seeing if it's going to be. But the instinct is, and this is what happened, like, and what you're going to see when he's get cut to social media and stuff, is he brandishes a yellow card for that challenge, even though there is looking at, and it was upgraded to a red. If a kid is watching that, or if someone has seen that in passing and they see this guy was able to do this and get a yellow card to get away with it, so it just gives off the wrong message straight away. Yes. So, like, it's either a yellow or red, and you have to put that decision on the referee. And like, it's like that. We saw like the likes of the Freddie Stewart one and stuff. Like, if you were to go back and look at that, like, there is an argument there to say whether it was yellow or red. There really was, and which is why he's probably got rescinded
From Freddie Stewart and Hugh Ireland England game.
Yeah. But that and like all 3 of us here, and we've disagreed before on penalties and yellow cards in situations. Isn't that as clear a red card as you're going to see?
The Corey Toole one, yeah.
It is.
It is. I'm sure Angus Blythe didn't intentionally go out to knock out Corey Toole,
No,
but he went in with his head, so it should be a
reckless.
red card. It is completely reckless, and there could have been more danger in that. But I just think that there might be something in it that is taking the pressure off the refs in the moment, who are a bit flustered and might be under pressure from the crowd screaming at them, 30 players screaming at them. No, it is their job to make that decision, but does he give him a bit of time to go, okay, there's definitely something wrong here, put it up to a TMO who can look at the incident directly and then upgrade it to a red card. But maybe, as you said, Jason, with the 20 minutes, that gives them a 10-minute buffer where they're going to have an extra player on the pitch while the TMO is still reviewing it. So maybe reduce down the TMO intervention to the 10-minute yellow card. You have 10 minutes to get it done, or you lose the player or something like that.
Well, I think we've enough as like TMOs and assistant referees to kind of, like, I appreciate the pressure and the crowd and all that, so I would hate to be a referee, but
yeah, it's a hard job.
It is a hard job, but I think we've enough help to say, right, well, here's, say, if we put it on the big screen, do you want a quick look at it to see what if your initial reaction to the yellow or red is enough, and then if he says, right, I'm going to go yellow but want review. So his decision's there to, like, I'm unsure, I want a review, and take the 10 minutes. Surely there's different choices we can like implement to try
just
and
different
make
ways of saving time as well, I think. I think, like, I don't mind, right, if there's an incident in the game and it's Ireland playing France in the World Cup quarter-final, and, like, we need to take 10 minutes and pause the game and find out if DuPont is getting a red card or a yellow card, or if Hugo Keenan is getting a red card or a yellow card, and we take our time, because we can save time. We've saved time now massively since we've implemented the goal meter, the goal line dropout, instead of having a scrum every time was brought back. Like, there was an incident which I think is one of the commentators put it out over the weekend. It was the La Rochelle game, and they got 3 free kicks from scrums in a row, and every single time they got the free kick, what did they do? Because they were dominating them, they went for another scrum. Now, this was like 10, 15 minutes wasted. All you got to do there is just go, when you get a free kick in the scrum, you got to tap it. You can't go for another scrum again. And you're going to save like 15, 20 minutes in a game there. So there's other smarter ways of, let's speed the game up. In an incident like that, if you have to go to TMO, let them take all the time they need to get the decision right. That's it then.
I agree,
Yeah, you're never going to please everyone. You know, some people will be giving out, there's too much time in the TMO.
So when it's so important, give them the time. Let them.
Player welfare has to be appreciated.
Just to save any confusion, I think we might have seemed like we mixed 2 rules there. There's the yellow card review where the TMO can upgrade a yellow to a red, and then there's another rule where they're trying the 20-minute red card. So you have someone, you lose a player for 20 minutes.
Sorry. So we got he didn't come back on at all.
So you lose the player for 20 minutes, and then you can bring on a new player, but the player that's committed the foul and the red card offence doesn't come back on the pitch.
Right.
I think so it's 2 separate rules.
So they upgraded to a red before his 10 minutes was up in the bin. Okay, sorry. So that makes sense. So they did engage, but still, I still think it should never have went to a review. It should have been a straight red.
But this 20-minute red card law, which I've kind of talked about the potential of this working in rugby before, but someone's brought up a good point that, say, it's going to be a bit dark, like, but they go out and target the top player in the other team, and they knock him out and injure him. He's gone off the pitch. Someone basically, like, just sacrifices themselves to get the red card, and then they bring on another player off the pitch. So now the other team has lost their best player, and you know, if someone else on the pitch, like coaches could plan that, which sounds really dark, but they could technically with that rule.
You have to. It's human nature.
I don't know if
to gain an advantage to do that. Like, it's within our. It's nature of the beast. There is coaches and teams that will think like
go out and take him out. Like,
you have to manipulate the game for your advantage, and that is the way
human nature.
It
People cheat. It's cheating.
It's
bending the rules. Is what it is.
Yeah. So, like, World Rugby are trying. Do you know what I mean? They're not sitting back and just saying, "Oh, the rules are fine." They're trying different things in different competitions, so we have to give them props for that and a bit of credit that they're trying to improve the game and get rid of these red card offences and the high tackles and all that stuff. But Lindsay, do you think it's going in the right direction and they're trying the right rules? Like, would you have any suggestions, or do you think it's more trial and error as we go forward?
I think speeding up the game. I think that one with the scrums, and this is from a front row. Like, I love scrums, but you want to play a more exciting, expansive game of rugby as a player and as a product. Do you know what I mean? You want to make it more exciting, and I think for those rules to speed up the game, even the 30 seconds with your conversion, the timer. Your 50-22s now, so there's some really good rules to not be punished and still have a full complement of players now. I think if we bring up player welfare, and I think it would be an area where, and I would do the same. I would absolutely bend the rules and say, right, Greg, you're going to pitch that job. You're taking
red
Jason out
red
of it.
card.
You're going
Simple
to take him for the team. That's the way it goes. So. You don't want to put that in a player. You don't want to as well go, you're a trained professional. You don't want to be kind of lowering yourself to be the target man. But I can see it. Like, it's because it is a game of chess now as well. You know, it's a tactical war between coaches and teams. So that's the only rule I wouldn't like to see come in. But, like, with bringing in reviews of yellow cards, because obviously we Doris the weekend, I think it was a yellow by definition, but think he was in between two minds whether to double here or whether to rip the ball. You can see him kind of. And he's not a player who's dirty. Like he's probably discipline record. So, I think there's some really good ways of speeding up the game. But as regards player welfare and having teams in full complement, because they brought in with GA with the black card and all that crap, and I just didn't think it worked.
Yeah, I think maybe one suggestion could be the bans players get for these red card high tackle offences need to be more severe
100%.
to completely deter players. Being like, you could I don't know, for argument's sake, you miss half a season, they're
getting
doing
nothing at the
something
moment.
that
They're getting 2 or 3 game bans.
Angus Blight went head kamikaze straight into Corey Toulouse. All right, you're missing the rest of the season.
Do they get fined?
I don't think they do.
I don't think they get
They
fined.
do.
No.
The club might get fined and stuff. But we saw the same thing with Farrell before the Six Nations. But his one, that was a bad one, and he got 2 games and was back in time with the Six
That's
Nations.
the thing. So
there's no deterrent there, really, is there?
It's not a deterrent.
No.
Where if I know, you're playing, and Jason's after getting banned for 6 months, I'm like, there's
I ain't
no
fucking
way I'm
against
going risking that.
it.
Do you know what I mean? If they that's one way to completely deter it. I feel, but obviously that's going to be tough on the players that do it unintentionally.
No, but as in there's. What you're saying there is you're not saying unintentional. You're saying the ones that are black and white red cards or a really bad challenge, and they're getting 3 games, where the guy that did it unintentionally is also getting 3 games.
Yeah.
But the guys that do it intentionally and it's blatant, and you see that it's either not, maybe intentionally is the wrong word, because there's no guy goes out to. Well, I hope not. No guy or girl goes out to really injure a fellow player.
Yeah.
But a really reckless and stupid challenge like that one. They're guys that should be getting.
We can take
the
2
book
examples from the weekend. So that one that we're speaking about with Angus Blight and Corey Toole.
Yeah.
He's made the decision to launch himself with his head at Corey Toole's chin.
Late, very
so it's
late.
a silly decision. Whereas one that's friendly fire was Will Skelton's one on the weekend.
Yes.
Where the sub hooker was rucking out and his shoulder happened to hit Will Skelton on the head. That's a bit of friendly fire.
Yeah.
He didn't mean intentionally to knock out Will Skelton. Do you know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
So do they then, Lindsay, take these incidents and analyse them with professionals and refs and to go, okay, that's intentional, you're now getting a serious ban, we won't see you for the rest of the season. And that goes out to then a ripple effect to the rest of the world, being like, okay, lads, you got to watch your tackle height here.
100%. I don't think there's any point in having these reviews and then sending people to tackle school. I mean, there has been players who've gone to tackle school 2 or 3 times with bans. You're like, you're not really getting this, are you? No. So I think we need to be a bit harder. And look, I'm a parent and kids need consistency. Players need consistency, because if the parameters are moved all the time, they're just going to expand within the parameters. So keep them nice and close and have these reviews and be tough. Be tough on those you need to be tough on. And others where it is friendly for, it is a game of rugby where there is physical contact. Yeah, you can't eradicate everything.
Yeah.
But we have to protect those against things that are intentional and are going to put players' welfare in jeopardy.
Well, at least World Rugby are trying, and hopefully now over time we do get to a set of rules that keeps everyone happy, fans, players, and keeps everyone safe at the end of the day.
Yep.
Lads, URC is back this coming weekend. Ulster, who are in 3rd place, are at home to Dragons. 2 points off 2nd place, targeting a bonus point win. I think if they get that bonus point win, they get their home playoff game, don't they? Which would be great for them. Munster in 5th are away to Stormers, which isn't great. Stormers who just lost, but that might shake the beast up a little bit, and they could probably be a flying form now that they're focusing on the URC. They're not in the European Cup anymore, so it's going to be a tough game for Munster, isn't it, Jason?
Yeah. It's kind of will they be defeated and a little bit down after the Champions Cup, or will they be fired up and, as you said, more focused for URC? But Munster are going over there knowing that they have to win, so maybe that will.
And they're bringing all the big ones.
Big guns. So I think, look.
No, lads, come on now.
I hope so.
We're going to be optimistic. I'm up for Munster. I think it's going to be a rejuvenation for the final part of the season, and Munster are going to get a win.
I don't want to go watch Challenge Cup games next year. I really don't. I'll be honest.
I know. I hope so too.
I actually don't want to listen to you. If
no offense to the no offense to the Challenge Cup. I don't want to go.
I want to be optimistic. If one team are to do it to go away, it's Munster. Just pull it together and have an unbelievable
boys,
performance.
where's our optimism here?
No, I do love them. It's just a big challenge for the
and being
boys.
optimistic, they're 2 different things.
I just hope.
Munster versus Bath and Breve next year,
so they travel to South Africa for 2 must-win games. They're down there again to play the Sharks. the week after. So I don't know if they'd stay down. They'd probably stay down there.
I'm sure they will.
Jeez, they won't be coming home to home now anyway.
Jeez, a nice little trip for the lads.
No, I'll be out of it. Yeah, win some rugby while we're over there. No, lads, please.
Leinster, obviously, number 1, away to Lions. I presume they'll be sending the second tier lads who are still some of the best players in the world, like your Ruddocks and the Burns and Rob Russell, who's playing out of his skin as well.
Yep.
Any fear going away to the Lions, Lindsay?
Listen, I don't know. I think we're 74 points. We're well ahead. I think it's 61 as the next team near us on the URC. So I think this is just a time for us to build on the young lads getting experience. So I actually think we went away and had some good results last year with the same kind of philosophy, and I think now just let the boys enjoy it. So I think it's a banana skin, but I actually think we'll come out with some wins, to be honest.
And do you think that the next couple of weeks they should just keep playing the URC guys, the second string guys, and let the European guys rest? Or do you think keep the lads ticking over, the top lads, keep the top 15 ticking over?
I think it'll depend. If you're looking at like Tyg Furlong, right, would have had like his injury, say before the Six Nations was calf, but all would have been positional, I would think, back into hamstring into calf. So does he need to be managed? Tyg probably doesn't need game time right now. We need like front row to be blooded. Cian Healy might need some game time. I can't see him going down though because of just probably family and the extent of the trip. But no, I think stick with the game plan. I think some of the, I suppose, European or more experienced players who were playing with Ireland might need game time. Others will need rest, I think. So
it's probably not a one size fits all. It comes down to like individual players and
I think so. Like
volume load and stuff like that. Yeah.
They won't be sending some of the lads away to South Africa, but maybe when they come home. Well, sure, it's 2 weeks now to the semi-finals, so I can't see there'll be. Who have they got after Lions? I don't think they're 2 weeks down there. So.
No, they're not. They're only they're back home, I think, next week. And Connacht are also at home next week. Connacht are at home to Cardiff, and then they're away to Glasgow the following weekend. And they could really do with a home win going over there to Glasgow. But they're fighting well. Connacht, they got themselves back up in the 6th into the playoff places. No.
Sorry, Connacht. Sorry, Mackin. I'm not cheering you on now because I don't want you to overtake us. So I want to give Munster more of a chance, so I can't cheer you on at the moment. Things are way too desperate at the moment for Munster. So I'll let you away to Bulls. 2, so they've 2. That way then they're hardly going to fly the boys out for the second week and have them tired and gone over it. They're all just going to stay in Dublin, to be honest with you, and just be ready and to welcome Toulouse.
Okay, so Munster away for 2 weeks to South Africa, Leinster away for 2 weeks to South Africa.
Connacht are at home. They might train together, lads. They might pick up a few points.
Give us a few players as well, will they?
No, we're not that kind. Listen, if any Munster fans listen to the show, will you just comment and give the boys some love and reassurance?
Stop, will you?
Please.
We haven't given up yet, but we just know it's going to be a tough shift for boys. So let's see how it goes anyway. Hopefully the boys can get some wins down there. But it's time for our Never Stop Competing moment of the week.
Giving it to me and you, is it? Me and you for big
Never stop supporting Munster.
We're giving it to me.
Never stop supporting Munster. Go on,
actually, no.
Stop competing.
That's a funny one, actually. We're actually going to give it to Benetton Treviso for reaching the Challenge Cup semi-finals. For the first time in their history, they beat Cardiff at the weekend, but they face Toulon in the semi-finals.
Who I saw bits of it before I tuned into Toulouse, and they were.
They battered Leon, didn't they? And the mad thing about it is Leon battered them in the final last year. Like, I was at that. So I thought it'd be much closer than it ended up. But
great to see Treviso,
big reward for them
in that kind of level of competition.
Yeah.
Big love to them. Big love. They've had a great season and they played some really good rugby. So look.
Irish coach again,
Well, what can we say? Look at the Irish and all that.
Fair play, lads. So that's all for today. That was a great show. Going through the European Rugby. With URC back this weekend. Hopefully get a few wins. And thanks very much for your time and your expertise as always, guys.
Oh, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a magical host.
Isn't he gorgeous? What do we do with that?
Will you stop flirting with me? Thank you so much for listening at home.
I love it.
Thank you so much for listening at home, and thank you, Bank of Ireland, our partners and proud supporters of the 4 Irish provinces. We'll catch you next week, guys.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.